I believe Michael has been arbitrarily, unjustly detained. He and Michael Spavor have ended up in this situation because of no fault of their own. They are pawns in a bigger geopolitical drama. They are paying an incredible price. I can't even begin to explain how incredibly painful and prolonged this has been, of that kind of confinement. The first few days were quite confusing and chaotic because we didn't get access to Michael until that Friday, December 14th. So when he first got detained and there was no notice to the embassy, we were all scrambling to try to understand exactly what unfolded. Things kind of then got on the track after the first visit. We understood what was happening. People very quickly started making connections between December 1 detention of Meng Wanzhou and that, in part because sort of the story started coming out that there had been warnings and that our ambassador had been called in and there were warnings, right? So people pretty quickly started making connections, but those first few days were quite chaotic. In July of 2019, he was kind of coming out of the solitary and the isolation, so this was that letter. And it says, if there's one faint silver lining to this hell, it is this: trauma carved caverns of psychological pain through my mind. As I strive to heal and recover, I find myself filling those gulfs with a love for you and for life that is vast, deep, and more profound and comforting than what I've ever experienced before. So as I sit here, tinnitus ringing in the silence, as I walk in circles, pollutions clogging my nose, come sit with me and walk with me in spirit. Help me feel less isolated. Let me share the love I have for you, and we'll get through this together. Love, Michael. The summer of 2019 was a lot of, I need to almost rebuild my mental strength and resilience, because the trauma of those first 6 months, I think, were profound on him based on that first letter. And then gradually, I think he was regaining some of that. And it really helped when Ambassador Barton went to visit him for the consular visit. And those 30 minutes with Ambassador Barton, I think, had a profound difference on Michael's mental state. He was able to get some sense of what the world was doing on his behalf, which is why the idea that now they have been cut off since January is especially devastating, because I could see a progression of saying, okay, I'm with this, day to day, I've got this, just please get me out. Those were kind of the December, January letters, and then nothing. And then those visits, which I think were quite a lifeline to him, got stopped. He gets to write letters on one day a month, right? So it's not like he has pen and paper in his cell. And I wonder how much of it is, he tries to sound resolute and resilient to make sure we don't worry more than we already worry, and how much of it is really his state. And a lot of them, especially the last few before the cutoff in January, sounded very resolute, very resilient, very much like, I am repeating prayers, I'm repeating songs, I am staying positive. And that gives me and the rest of us a lot of strength. But I still worry. I worry what that looks like in a course of a month, right? Like what that isolation and confinement feels like. Because his days can be so similar, is what he would say. Every day is kind of the same. You're in a cell 10 by 10 feet. In one of his letters, he said he can see 10 feet, more than 10 feet in each direction. To create some kind of a structure, he follows a very regimented schedule, or at least that's what his letters suggest, that he kind of tries to do things at the exact same time every day. He measures how many steps a day he takes in his cell. So and tries to get between 7,000 and 10,000 steps by just walking in a circle in his cell. There are a lot of rules and regulations in the detention center, meaning like they have to all wake up at a certain time, they all have to go to be on their bunks at a certain time. Every morning they have to roll up their mattress, and the cup and the plate that each inmate is assigned to. Like he referred in one of his letters that every morning I roll up all my worldly possessions, which consist of just a cup and a plate and a mattress, only to roll it out again at night at 10:30. So 6:30 start, 10 or 10:30 sleep time, and in between there are sort of regimented kind of lunch and breakfast and dinner, which he describes as a lot of boiled rice with occasional boiled vegetable. Not very much protein. Again, this is based on information in January. I have no idea what the situation is now. In one of his letters, he said that he has not seen a tree or been outside that entire time. And I think that letter was around October of last year, but I don't think that has changed. Then he has time to read. He calls this his enforced sabbatical in some ways, and he's attempting to read as many books as he can. In the first several months, he didn't have access to them, so we spent a lot of time advocating for him to have access to books, because I knew for Michael that was going to be critical, like given the man that he is, how much he loves to read, how much he needed that kind of stimulation in the absence of anything else, in the absence of going outside, in the absence of conversations with us, any kind of other connection. I knew that if he at least had books, that would help. I see my role as Michael's advocate as someone who has to keep reminding people that this is still a priority, and that because there are so many other things that are happening in the world, right? And this cannot fall off the radar. So one is just simply reminding of the human element of this, that Michael is a person that matters, that there are those of us who miss him and want his life to resume. Just kind of bringing back the humanity of this, that everything can be complex, the geopolitics can be complex, but I also see that it's important to remember that Michael is a human being, is an innocent Canadian caught in a much bigger game, and it is unnecessary. His detention is unnecessary, and it has to come to an end. I will not stop. Michael will be free. It is a promise I have made to him. It is a promise that I keep making to him in every letter. It may take time, but collectively we will find a way out. And I believe that with all the smart and capable and good people working on his behalf, there will be a solution. He will be free, and he will be reunited with all of us.